Hey everyone. So lately, and also a few weeks ago, when since I started making videos, a lot of players been asking me how to build a good deck or build or tips and tricks to build good decks. And it's actually not easy to give you a complete answer. But today, I'll try to give you a lot of information regarding deck building, and I hope you stick with me till the end because if you're playing this game for a few months, I think it's gonna be a really important video. And if you're like a beginner, then it's a bit harder because you don't have like maybe a I don't know, a light brave with a recycle one or something. So it's gonna be a bit harder for you, but I try to keep everyone in mind and try to explain my best how to build decks. So the first thing uh, I need to point out is that you have offense and defensive decks. Okay, so for example, if we're gonna play the gauntlet, that means I'm gonna be using an offensive deck because I can, select my card and pick my hero, right? So that's the offense. If I'm gonna go play trials, I already beat it today, but that means I'm gonna be using an offensive deck, and it's the same. If I'm gonna go to raid something or attack someone in the tournament or play the Explorer's Gate, it's all offense. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to keep in mind. And defense decks are usually the decks that you have here when they attack you in the arena or your tournament decks, like I don't know, a defense deck. So these are like the defense decks. So those two things are the first. Okay, so as how to build your offense deck, there is no specific way to build a offensive deck. As an offense deck, you always have like one deck that should be like your standard deck, but you have to keep adjusting your deck for every fight if necessary. I'll get into that a bit later in the video because now I'll be explaining the 7 types of decks that are commonly used and that a lot of players are using. So the first type of deck that you can make is the white undying deck. So I think that's by far the most popular. White as hero, and then they usually have undying and cripple as talent, right? So I'm gonna show you guys a example of a good uh, white deck, and I think this guy Beckley, he also makes video, and he had a pretty good white deck. So I thought I show you guys. It's only a 9 card deck, but usually when you have white, you want to have only somewhere around 5 morty creatures. You want to only have 5 morty creatures, maybe 6 if you want to be risky. 4. The reason why you don't want like 10 morty creatures is because you don't want the undying to trigger too early nor too late. So you want your undying to trigger twice, and preferably once it triggers, you want to have like 5 creatures on the field once it triggers, or 4 creatures. So all your 4 or all your 5 creatures gets the undying, and you will have the time to put your creatures because you got a cripple. So you're gonna make the enemy attack lower while you have the time to set up your creatures on the field, and then hopefully once you have 5 creatures or 6 or 4, then the undying comes, and then uh, 5 or 6 of your creatures have the undying talent, which is pretty powerful because your whole cards are gonna get revived. So uh, that's like a good example of how to use the undying, and not you like putting a deck with 10 morty cards. I'm not a fan of it because if you put a deck with 10 morty cards, that means your once you drop your first 2 or 3 creatures, undying is gonna trigger, and then you drop your 4th creature, undying is gonna trigger again. So usually only 3 or 4 of your creatures can have undying, but with a bit less amount of morty creatures, you can activate undying much more. So uh, so that's deck one. So and the second deck type you can create, I call it the field presence deck. It's field presence deck, or decks that focus to stay on the field long, and The best examples are the Neander decks with like 3 or 4 Nidhoggs, because of the Earth Totem 10 gives the whole Nidhoggs 500 health. So most field presence teams have 3 or 4 creatures that buffs the faction creatures. So 3 Nidhogg means the whole team will get 1500 HP plus the Neander Aura. So all the Neander is gonna get somewhere around 2 to 3000 HP. So that's like a field presence deck. And I got one more example. The most common one are the Neander and the human ones. My guildmate here has a human one, so massive royal dragons because they're good. And with the stage advice 6, that means he's got 5 of them, so the whole team plus Paragon will get 2000 extra human health. And if you buff the if you give 2000 extra health to a level 10 dragon, uh, that's gonna be really deadly, right? Like I think most of you fought some level 10 dragons before. They were already strong. Now imagine if the dragon had 2 to 3000 extra health, right? So that's a real really a common build. So I call it field presence. Next up, the third one, you have I call it the curse deck or the hero kill deck. Couldn't find a good example, but I think Mikal recently got one. So a really good curse deck. And the Captive Vader allows you to act one more turn. So you have hero kill decks. The fourth one is a bit the old-fashioned or the most popular one as well. I call it the disposal deck. So a deck with like 4 or 5 disposals. So I'm not gonna go too much into that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Disposal decks. Most players know what they do. They're kind of annoying unless you have Stone Skin. The fifth type of deck is the healing deck. Usually the Feyen deck. So I'm gonna show you guys trying to show you guys a good healing deck. I think my guildmate has one. I know my guildmate's deck better than the others, so that's why I select my guildmate. So I think this Predator deck is pretty decent. Um, it's a healing deck, so with a lot of Horn Beasts. So the only way to counter it, it's probably like burst damage. Like if you're gonna go with AoE like sweeping blow or magic, it's gonna heal up fast back again. So you need like burst damage if you wanna beat healing deck. So this guy has a lot of healing plus the healing rune. I assume a level 5-6 healing rune, so he plus an 9 extra heal. This Naga heals for 150, so 240, 240, another 240 here, 240 here, 240 here. So heals like 900 HP every turn, plus the Predator Boar for like another 300. So he heals like over 1000 health a turn. So this is like a healing deck. That's also possible. I don't have one yet, and I haven't got enough practice on them yet, but they're not bad. So it really depends on your strategy. Um, the sixth type of deck. It's not a real deck, but it's kind of my deck. I call it the Frost Armor deck plus melee Frost Armor deck. So plus mini healing. So I got like a lot of Frost Armor here. I got a Frost Armor Twins, for another Frost Armor Twins here, and the Frost Armor. Pontifex Frost Armor. My Mimir tree's got Frost Armor. So it's like a Frost Armor deck, and plus some healing from the Horn Beast to since they only take 160 damage a turn, the Horn Beast heals like 125, so it almost heals it completely back. So this I call it the Frost Armor plus mini healing deck. It's like kind of mixed, but kind of works. It obviously has weakness like the Horn Beasts are really squishy. Like they barely have 1000 health. Same goes for the Twins. So I feel like everything in this game has its weakness, and that's the good thing about this game. Otherwise, players will have one deck that can beat everything. So, and the last type of deck, the 7-1, is I call it the magic type. The reason why the magic decks are bad is because the enemy can counter it really easy with spiky bits, but there's an exception. And if you have judgment, actually the judgment counters the spiky bits pretty good. So if you have a judgment, you can afford using some magic cards, and magic cards are pretty powerful as well. I mean, with the fire rune, everything becomes a beast. Like fire rune adds another 300 max damage, another 450 max damage on this one, and there you go. Those are the 7 types of decks that you know, probably the most common ones, I'd say, and the pretty good ones. And if you think about long term, uh, you want to be working on one of those 7 decks, in my opinion. Like if you're kind of a new player and you don't have them yet, no worries. Just try to build your best deck as possible. But try to keep in mind what you have. If you have a Dragon Rider as your main hero, try to get like some Royal Dragons, things that give the dragons some hit points. I mean, it kind of works. So that's it for this. Oh, no, not yet. And some other basics. Some other basics I want to teach you guys. Again, some Morty decks. Morty decks are really hard. There's not many counters to them, and if you don't have a lot of strong cards, they're kind of hard. So their main weakness is that they need time to rebirth and recycle, and that their creatures are pretty squishy in general. So you gotta take advantage of that, because that will give you extra time. You gotta use that extra time to either, you know, kill the enemy hero, or heal up your creatures back, or maybe dispose their melded recycled one on their light brave or something like that. Against Feyen decks, usually Spiky Bits works really well. So Spiky Bits work really well against Feyens. Also, Morty decks work good against Feyens. Against Neander, you really want a few of these Centaur Chiefs. They're like your bread and butter against Neander decks, the Centaur Chiefs. So you want a few of those. And against humans, you want a few Spider Queens with Ravage 9, and some Graboids with Sweeping Blow plus Ravage 7, so doubles up the damage dealt to humans. So that's why I said there, in my opinion, there's no really good offensive deck, and I can't go much into those offensive decks. So before I end this video, I'll check my gun. What is it? Okay, so this guy has like a curse deck, alright? So I'm gonna put something real easy. I don't know. A summon. I think a random Dragon Rider will just wreck him. So I'm just gonna put, like, I don't know, an Oracle, Sentry Angel, some extra hit points for my creatures. You know, I could put like any random cards, and will probably beat this deck, because the offensive guy has advantage. So I'm gonna put like a 9-card deck, and gonna go out the battle through. Shouldn't be a problem. I mean, he's just using a curse deck. It's like really easy. What I want to show you guys. So I'm gonna like drop everything, and I should win. Easy win. So, you know, that's fight 1-1. I mean, I can go all day long, and eventually it's up to you to, you know, try to improve your game, and it's like really easy. And there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you learned something. Let me know in the comments, and maybe you have more deck ideas, or I missed something. Feel free to comment on that one. As always, remember to subscribe and like this video if you find it helpful, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.